All right, guys, how are
Can you
y'all
hear me?
doing today?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So, as I was saying, my name is Rini Garza. I'm a senior here at Texas State University, and I'm going to be moderating today's discussion while maintaining some focus and uncovering insights amongst all of us today. I want to remind you that our purpose here today is to talk about what students think about our clients, which is Rock the Vote, and why they might not want to vote in this year's election. Before we dive into this today's discussion, I just want to establish a couple of ground rules, and that they consist of talking one at a time. Everyone is going to have a chance to speak. There are no wrong answers, and we're looking for honest, open opinions with no consensus whatsoever in today's discussion. And the most important thing that we must do before we dive into this content as well is go around and introduce ourselves. Just give us a little information of who we are, where we're from, our grad level, and why we chose this beautiful university we call Texas State. So beginning with that, we're going to start with Evan. So you want to tell us who you are, man?
My name is Evan Mertens. I'm a senior here at Texas State, born and raised in Austin, Texas. I'm studying public relations, and I chose Texas State because it was close to Austin, but not UT.
Right on, right on. Okay. And we're going to move on to Maddie.
My name is Maddie Padilla. I'm originally from Southern California. I am a current senior at Texas State studying advertising. The reason why I'm attending Texas State is because I moved here from Colorado and I didn't really have that many options for school. So I chose Texas State.
Nice. Very well traveled. That's very good to hear. Okay. And what about you, Alyssa?
My name is Alyssa Welton. I am from Austin and I am a senior studying advertising, and I chose Texas State because it's close to home.
Okay. And what about you, Garris?
My name's Garris Neal. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a junior also studying advertising, and I chose Texas State because it's close to home.
Okay, close to the 210 indeed. All right. And what about you, Imani? Tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Imani Moss. I'm a junior. I'm from Houston, studying advertising, and I chose Texas State because I thought the campus was pretty.
Nice. And a beautiful campus it is indeed, so can't go wrong there. All right, now that we have firmly introduced ourselves and, have an understanding of kind of who we are, where we're from, different all walks of life and stuff of that nature, we're going to move on to our icebreaker activity, which we will be incorporating our research topic in some way just to kind of relate to why we're all here. And I'm going to start with 2 lies and 1 truth, all right? So in this activity, what I'm going to do is pretty much self-explanatory. I'm going to tell you 2 lies and 1 truth, and it's going to be up to each person in our discussion today to decide what is the truth and what are the 2 lies, all right? So for this first one, it is there is only 1 ballot box per county in this year's election. There are only 2 ballot boxes per county, or there are 10 plus boxes per county. So one of these is true and 2 of these are lies. So starting with Evan, what do you think, man?
The true one is there's only 1 ballot box per county.
Okay. And what about you, Maddie?
I think that there are 2.
2? Okay. Moving on to Alyssa.
I think that there are 10.
10?
Yeah.
Lead, okay. Garris?
I'm going to go with there's only 2.
Sweet. Okay, 2. And Imani, what do you think? How many ballot boxes?
I think there's 10.
10? Sweet. Okay. Well, now that we have everyone's results, there's actually going to be only 1 ballot box per county in this year's election. Makes it quite difficult, for the bigger cities, bigger counties, such as Harris County up in Houston, Dallas County over there, Maverick County, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be. So moving on to our next 2 lies and 1 truth. It is about the age in this year's 2020 presidential election of which people can vote, all right? So starting with my first point, it is you can vote at the age of 16, you can vote at the age of 18. You can vote at the age of 21. Again, starting with Evan, what do you think?
The truth is you can vote at the age of 18.
Okay. Maddie?
The truth is that you can vote at the age of 18.
Okay. Alyssa?
I also have to say that the truth is that you can vote at the age of 18.
All right. What about you, Garris?
I'm also go with 18.
Sweet. Amani?
I'm actually gonna go with 21.
21. Okay. Well, amongst these results, the majority actually won in this case. Just for this question, the voter age is actually 18 and will be a pivotal age to vote at, honestly, if we're being honest with all our younger generations out there. And our last question of our icebreaker activity, our last 2 lies and 1 truth, is you can vote early and late. The Electoral College doesn't have to follow the popular vote. The new administration takes over immediately after Election Day. Evan, what do you think?
The truth is that the Electoral College does not have to follow the popular vote.
Okay. And what do you think, Maddie?
I think that the new administration takes over immediately after Election Day.
Okay. Very, very solid answer. And what about you, Alyssa?
I'm going to go ahead and say you can vote both early and late.
Nice, nice. Garris?
The Electoral College doesn't have to follow the popular vote.
Okay. Sweet. And Amani?
The Electoral College doesn't have to follow the popular vote.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Well, the truth out of this last statement we had, or point for our 2 lies and 1 truth activity, the truth is the Electoral College doesn't have to follow the popular vote. So for those who got that, congrats. For those who didn't, all good. It's all just to break the ice, you know, like I said in our in the beginning, there are no wrong answers, just opinions. All right. So now that we've kind of broke the ice and really, you know, even got more of a familiar chance just to see who we are and what we kind of know in regards to voting in this year's election, it's time to move on to our series of open-ended questions. These questions will elicit conversation amongst all of us and are meant just to really spark a discussion and really see how we feel about certain things, as well as some concerns, motivation, even questioning an impact about the generations, you know, that have to vote in this year's election and why we think that. Okay. So I'm going to start with the first question, and we're just going to go roundabout as well. And my first open-ended question for these series is, what are some concerns you have about voting? Starting with Evan.
Some of my concerns that I have about voting is that it doesn't really matter which candidate you pick. Voting for the lesser of 2 evils is not how it should work.
Okay. Strong point. And what about you, Maddie? What do you think?
Some concerns that I have about voting is the possibility of mistakes happening, whether that's intentional or not. Yeah.
Whether that's intentional or not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see your point. And what do you think, Alyssa? What are some concerns you might have about voting?
Some concerns that I have is that people may not educate themselves beforehand. So, yeah.
Okay, so people won't educate themselves on the whole.
On who they're voting for and making sure like that's what aligns with them.
Gotcha. Okay, definitely. And Garris, what about you? What concerns you about voting this year?
I'm gonna also go with like an accuracy, like even like just mail-in like votes, like they can be lost or whatever, or even just like the act of going out to vote itself with a pandemic being like going on. It's just kind of dangerous.
Definitely, no doubt. In this climate, during these trying times in America, with a pandemic, it's can make it extremely dangerous to vote in this year's election. So I definitely feel your concern on where you're coming from on that, as well as I'm sure everybody else in this discussion does as well. So definitely. And what about you, Amani? What concerns you about voting?
I'm worried about tempers flaring and like things getting hostile while voting.
Definitely, tempers flaring and hostility. Gotcha. Never good combo on that. So I definitely okay. Well, as far as our first open-ended question, that's I'm glad we got all those answers and a lot of different views about concerns about voting and how they're all going to play a factor. We'll just have to find out. But my next question is what motivates you to vote? And go ahead and start back at the beginning with Evan.
So unpopular opinion, I actually do not participate in the act of voting. I'm actually very strongly against it.
Okay, and why might that be, Evan?
Just because either candidate, I don't think any real change will actually be made. I have very strong feelings that innocent men, women, and children will still die overseas. So I choose to not participate in the action.
Okay. Very justified responses. Good deal. Okay. And what about you, Maddie? What motivates you to vote if you do vote? If not, tell us why you don't and why it might not.
What motivates me to vote is the fact that there is a lot of misinformation being spread around so easily, and there are a lot of people who have really scary opinions, and they're open to having these opinions without even researching what they're saying. They kind of take something and run with it. So I feel like it's kind of my responsibility, and my vote does matter if I'm doing the research, and I am doing the research. So I feel like that really motivates me to vote.
Gosh, you some misinformation and scary opinions that can definitely play a factor in, especially in this year's election, more than any election, I'd say. And okay, well, to move on, what about you, Alyssa?
What motivates me to vote is that it's everybody has a voice, and so it's kind of our way to use that voice, to really try to make it count, I guess.
Definitely, voice and reasoning, very powerful combo, honestly, especially when it comes to voting. And what about you, Garrus? What do you think?
I guess what motivates me is that as I get older, I realize the policies carried out by the administrations in office have a bigger effect on us. And so I feel I should use my civic duty to vote and decide at least which policies I want being administered or carried out.
Got you. Definitely, everyone has a voice, so I see what you mean right there. And what about you, Amani? What motivates you to vote?
What motivates me is that I personally did not like how this country is like being run, and there's just too much going on at the moment. So I would just like to see some change.
Change is something we are all hungry for in this country. All right. Well, to move on to our last open-ended question of our open-ended question series that we have is, well, how big of an impact will the millennials and Generation Zs have on this year's election, and why do you think they will have a big impact or a small impact, whichever you decide to choose? All right. So going back around, Evan, what do you think?
Personally, I'm guessing that this will be the biggest voter turnout of all time. I really do believe that. I think both sides feel very strongly about their candidate. People are, a lot of people are very upset with Trump, but also a lot of people are really backing him up. So I think from both sides, there's going to be a lot of show up, a lot of turnout for sure.
Definitely. Okay. Good deal. And what do you think, Maddie?
I think that it'll be a much larger impact, just because there's a lot of different factors, but I feel like especially like with COVID too, you know, depending on how you look at it from either side, on how they handled it or how they would have handled it. I kind of feel like since the younger generations are kind of going through it and they're getting to see like how the country is turning out, like that makes them probably want to go out and vote. So I think that it'll be a much larger impact.
Definitely strong point. And what do you think, Alyssa?
I definitely think there will be a larger impact of younger generations with millennials and Gen Zs voting this year. I think the younger generations have become more opinionated and definitely more involved in politics than in the past, especially this year. Overall, I think people are definitely more involved, and therefore there'll definitely be a bigger impact with the younger generations voting.
Definitely. Okay. And Garris, what do you think?
I think there'll be a much larger impact if they actually get out and vote. You know, just like if you didn't vote in the last one, you've been following social media. It's like kind of this like political morale that's been curated, and like everyone's strongly opinionated. I think you're definitely going to vote now to choose. I think like millennials and Gen Z get out and vote is going to be crazy. The voter turnout is going to be, like he said earlier, it's going to be one of the biggest turnouts ever.
Definitely. And you're not wrong, my friend. And what about you, Amani?
I think it's going to be a pretty big turnout for both generations because I feel like together we're plentiful and we've educated ourselves about both candidates. So we're ready to vote.
Definitely. Educating yourself on what your right is to do is definitely prime time, especially during these trialing times. So we had a lot of great responses. All of y'all definitely came through with some solid answers for our last open-ended question. But to move on, we are now going to shift our focus to our focus group activities. And when I say focus group activities, we're actually going to start with our first one, which is going to be a cartoon. So I'm going to share my screen. But before I do, I'm going to explain just some instructions on how we're going to go about this first activity. So when I show each of you, we're just going to go one by one. I'm going to show you a picture. You're just going to tell me what the first thing that comes to your mind. However, what I want you to keep in your mind whenever I ask you this question is not necessarily what exactly that you see in front of you. And yes, you know, some of these images are going to be self-explanatory where you can see and say what it is, that kind of thing. But at the same time, also try to keep what it symbolizes, the aspect of that with each of these images, okay? And we're going to go from there, all right? So I'm going to share my screen, show you what I'm talking about. And yeah. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so starting with our first image right here, all right? We're going to start with you, Evan. What do you see when you see that image?
Is this supposed to be a ballot box?
It is, actually. It is a ballot box. But what do you see? Is that the first thing that comes to your mind when you see that?
No, I was just making sure. First thing that comes to mind when I see ballot box is illusion.
Illusion? And why might you think that?
Just because at the end of the day, I do not believe that our vote actually matters.
Okay. Very strong point. I got you. Good deal, Evan. And okay, well, moving on to Maddie, what do you see? What's the first thing you see when you look at that image right there?
So when I first look at the image, I see a dressing room, but just because of the curtains and just the way it looks.
The dressing room. Well, I could see that as well. So you're not wrong. I'm sure everyone could see that, especially with the curtains right there. All right. What about you, Alyssa? What do you see when you look at that? First thing that comes to mind.
Honestly, when I first looked at it, I did not think ballot box. Kind of looks like a shower.
Like a shower, okay, like one of those outdoor showers or something.
Totally, yeah.
Cool. All right. And what about you, Garris? What do you see?
Privacy, really. Just because the curtains.
Gotcha. And elaborate on that. You see privacy, you see curtains. What do you think would be going on in there?
It could be anything. I mean, honestly, like out of the answers that everybody given, like privacy are involved in all of them. You're not gonna shower with the curtain pulled back. You're not changing like a public dressing room with the curtain pulled back. So regardless of like what it actually is, just the curtain like being pulled is the private.
Very true. Okay, sweet. And Imani, what do you see?
I too see a dressing room.
Got you. Well, it is a ballot box, which I'm sure everyone already knew, besides, giving their first things when they saw that, which is going to play a pivotal role with our client, which is Rock the Vote, and college students getting in there and doing what they have to do. So good job on that part. And we're going to move on to our second picture, and which is right below that. So starting with Evan, what do you see when you see that second image right here?
So obviously I see eagle, but what I think of is just bird. I just think of bird or predator.
Yeah, she bird or predator?
But mostly bird.
I mean, which it is definitely. Okay. And what about you, Maddie?
Yeah, when I see it, I see an eagle, but I also think of how dangerous it could be,
Got you. Okay.
like a dangerous bird.
Yeah. So you see an eagle, but it symbolizes danger. Is that correct?
Yeah, to me, it looks dangerous.
Okay. Alyssa, what do you see?
Obviously, bird, but I automatically think of predator. It's a pretty intimidating bird. So
Interesting. All right. And then what about you? What do you see, Garris?
I'm gonna say freedom, just it being like America's symbol and all.
Freedom. Definitely. Okay. Amani, what do you think? What do you see when you see this picture right here?
When I see that, I think of nature because eagles are just mostly in nature. Like I don't really see them captive. So
Got you. Nature. A bird in the nature. Nice. Well, I mean, that's exactly where they belong, so you're not wrong. And moving on to our last image that we have here below the eagle. This is, well, it can be a self-explanatory image to y'all, like I said, or it can be something that symbolizes something. So going back around to Evan, what do you see?
So I see the flag, but it makes me think of conquering.
Conquering. And why might it make you think of conquering?
Just because America has always kind of been that, just like the world police, just kind of going anywhere they can and kicking in the door.
Definitely. Okay. And to elaborate before we move on to Maddie, I like what you said on what it symbolizes, and because obviously we all know that's a flag. So I want to alter this last question and just the second part. What does this symbolize to you, and why? So Maddie, what does it symbolize to you and why?
I mean, like when I see it, I think of the Pledge of Allegiance, and it just kind of like it just reminds me of like honoring the flag. Like there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, no,
Like not emotions to the flag, but like you're in the U.S. and it's just like what really symbolizes the U.S.
Definitely, it captivates what our country is. I got you. Okay, with pledge allegiance and honor. All right, and Alyssa, what do you see?
I definitely think it obviously symbolizes our nation and freedom.
Sweet, our nation and freedom. Strong words. Okay. What about you, Garris?
I'm gonna say a wavering nation. I feel like we're not really like holding steady and like know our identity anymore. We're kind of just wavering out there, trying to find our balance again.
Definitely valid point there. Honestly, very valid point. Monty, what do you see?
if I'm being honest, when I see an American flag, I just think racism. Because most of the time, when something racist is said or something like that, there's flag waving. So it's like.
Got you. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, there's no wrong answers, just opinions. So what we all see is what we all feel. So definitely good job on our first activity. I'm glad everyone, stated their truths and their answers in the most honest, opinionated form, and that's what matters the most with our group discussion that we're having here. So now we're going to move on to our second activity, which is a survey. Okay, we had already done this survey. I just want to go over the results, which is somewhat valid. So the first three questions are right here. I'm going to read over the first question, and we're going to discuss, why possibly why the vote may be different or why it was the same. So the first question here is, did you know what rock the vote was before this task? Well, out of yes and no, our results were 5 no's and 4 yeses, meaning that one person actually knew what rock the vote is. So that one person, do you want to tell us what they are?
Sorry, that was me. Rock the Vote is actually a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping young people go out there and vote, and they just educate people on the voting procedures and what goes on in voting.
Good deal. Okay, and that was our one person that knew about it. All of us, the rest of us did not know what it was. So that's good. Thank you for elaborating on that. Our second question was, do you think students will have a difficult time deciding to vote? And well, the results speak for themselves. I'd say 5 out of 5 people chose yes. And the thing about this one, we're going to discuss why we all feel this way. However, I'm going to throw this question out, as an open floor question. So whoever wants to answer on why they think everybody chose yes to this question, definitely feel free to put in some input right now if you'd like.
I think that students will have a difficult time deciding to vote just because the two candidates that many people focus on, they're very polar opposites. And I think that ethically and morally, they're both very different. And maybe a lot of us don't have similar feelings about them. So I think it'll be a lot more difficult trying to decide.
Definitely. Okay. And our last question here, was, are you registered to vote? The results say, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 chose yes. Well, all we can really say besides discussing this question is, if you haven't voted, definitely, or if you haven't registered to vote, definitely get out there and do that. As important as some of us may think it is, or some of us, that may not. Just know that. To summarize everything that we've talked about today, going back to our open-ended questions, I'd say, we all have our, different reasons for, for how we feel about this year's election, as well as our clients and college students such as ourselves. When it comes to what's going to happen, we all state our concerns that range just, anywhere from not being educated to, tempers flaring and not voting because, people don't believe that the lesser two evils should be an option, and moving on to know what motivated us, and just, talking about the misinformation as well as voice and reason, and just stuff like that really is all going to play a key factor on to, why college students might not vote, and what's going to attribute to how they feel about rock the vote in general, and just going from our activities as well, from what we saw in each of our images that we had here, of the poll booth, the eagle and the American flag. Just getting answers anywhere between, illusion to where a vote doesn't count, to dressing room, shower, privacy, all of that fun jazz, to our eagle consisting of just, being seen as a predator with danger, otherwise, still symbolizing freedom and in nature. And just to the very last, the most simplistic image of that too, summarizing, on how we all felt about that, is just, yes, we all saw that it was a flag. However, what it symbolized, people said it was conquering with honor, freedom, wavering because it's not steady, and just some flat out racism just based on what's been going on this year. And yeah, just with all these opinions going into our second activity on how we felt about our votes and about, not knowing who Rock the Vote was, having Imani step in and kind of introduce that to all of us is very, very powerful points. And also having Maddie tell us why she thinks, students feel that it's going to be a difficult time to vote. So in conclusion, that's where we're at with everything. And based on what we've discussed today, it's really all going to come down to how powerful our focus meeting was here today. So just definitely know that. So I just want to take the time to thank each and every one of you for your opinions that attributed to this ongoing discussion we had today as a focus group. And just want to encourage y'all to definitely keep a positive mind, keep a positive light, and we will go from there. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.